Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to read some of Plato's Laws, Book 1 in particular, translated by David Horan. So I'm going to pull up my screen now. Here we go. Plato's Laws, Book 1, translated by David Horan. Athenian stranger. Well, my friends, was it a god or some human who was responsible for establishing our laws? Clinias. A god, my friend, yes. That was the fairest answer. Among ourselves in Crete, it was Zeus, while among the Spartans, where this man comes from, I think they say it was Apollo. Is this so? Megillus, yes. Athenian, don't you say, as Homer does, that Minos used to make regular visits every 9th year to be with his father, Zeus, and he sat down the laws for your cities based on Zeus's pronouncement? Clee, yes, that's what we say, and indeed we also say that his brother Rhadamanthus, you have heard the name, I'm sure, was exceedingly just, and we Cretans would maintain that he won his reputation deservedly based on the way he dealt with the legal issues of his time. A good reputation indeed, and most befitting of a son of Zeus. And since yourself and this man have been brought up under such lawful customs as these, I presume that spending time now listening to one another speak about civic affairs and laws would not be an unpleasant prospect as we proceed on our journey. The road from Knossos to the cave and the sanctuary of Zeus is quite a long time, I'm told. But there are, it seems, resting places shaded with from this extreme heat along the way, among the tall trees. At our age, it would be appropriate that we take a rest often among them, relax and exchange stories with one another, and thus complete the entire journey with ease. Yes, indeed, my friend. And as we proceed, there are tall cypress trees of wonderful beauty in the grove, and there are meadows, too, in which we may take rest and converse. You're right to suggest this. Yes, indeed, and we'll say so all the more when we see them. So let us proceed, and may good fortune attend us. So be it. Tell me this. Why is it that the law regulates your common meals, physical exercise, and the nature of your military equipment? Well, my friend, I think that our arrangements are easy for anyone to understand. Indeed, the entire Cretan countryside is not, as you see, flack like Thylacine. And so they make more use of whores while we are runners. Horses, not horse, horses, while we are runners, since our terror to exercise that involves running. In a country like this, then, it is necessary to wear right armory rather than to try to run in heavy armory. And the lightness of bows and arrows seems to fit with all this. All these arrangements equip us for war, and as we see it, the lawmaker has this in mind when he made all the regulations. And that is probably why he got people together for common meals, seeing that all those who are ever on military campaign necessarily have meals together for their own protection, for the duration because of the circumstances. Here I believe he is demanding of the stupidity of the broad mass of people who don't understand that there is always constant warfare going on against all of the cities throughout everyone's life. Now, if it is necessary, when there is a war on, to have meals together for the purposes of protection, and for some rulers and some subjects to act in turn as their guards, the same thing should be done in time of peace. For what most of the people call peace is so in name only, while in fact all the cities are by nature always involved in undeclared warfare against all other cities. And if you look at it in this way, you will surely find that the Cretan lawgiver had an eye to the warfare when he instituted all these regulations of ours, be they public or private. And he gave us to the task of protecting the laws based on these principles, because nothing else at all, no possession or pursuit, are of any use unless we prevail in war, since all the gods of the defeated city go to the victorious one. Well, stranger, when it comes to the thorough understanding of Cretan law, you seem to me to have been very well trained. But explain something to me more clearly. The definition you gave of a well-governed city seems to me to be saying that it should be organized and managed so that it is victorious in war against other cities. Is this so? Yes, indeed. And I believe that this man here agrees with this. Heavens, how could any Spartan say otherwise? Now, although this is true of a city in relation to another city, does something different apply to a village in relation to another village? Not at all. It is the same. Yes. What about one household in a village in relation to another, and one man against another? Is it the same? The same. And what about the man himself in relation to himself? Should he think of himself as an enemy? Or what do we say in this case? O Athenian stranger, I am not prepared to refer to you as a mere inhabitant of Attica, for I think you really deserve to be named after the goddess, since you have brought the argument back to its source and made it clearer. And as a result, you will easily discover that we were right to say just now that all are enemies to all at the level of community or of the individual, and each individual is an enemy to himself or of himself. That's surprising. What do you mean? He himself winning a victory over himself, my friend, is the first and the best of all victories, while he himself being defeated by himself is the worst and most shameful defeat of all. Indeed, these statements are indicating that there is a war going on in each of us against our own selves. Well, let us turn the argument around again. For since each of us is both better than himself and worse than himself, should we maintain that the same holds for a household, a village, and a city, or not? Are you asking about being better than itself or worse than itself? Athenian, yes. Clee, are you right to ask? For this certainly is the case, very much so, especially in cities. For in any city where the superior people win a victory over the majority who are inferior, the city may rightly be said to be better than itself, and the city may quite justly be praised for such a victory. And the opposite applies under the opposite circumstances. Let's set aside the possibility that the inferior might somehow be better than the superior, since that would involve a longer argument. But as I now understand you are saying the unjust citizen of the same stock born in the same city will sometimes get together in large numbers and forcibly enslave just citizens who are fewer in number. Whenever they prevail, the city itself may rightly be said to be worse than itself and bad. And whenever they are defeated, the city itself may be said to be better than itself and good. What you're describing is very strange, nevertheless. We have to agree that this is so. Hold there. Let's consider this once more. Many sons may presumably be born from a single father and mother, and it would not, of course, be a surprise if more of them turned out to be unjust and less of them to be just. It would not. It would not be appropriate for you and me to pursue the point that the entire household of the family would be referred to as worse than itself if the evildoers were victorious, and as better than itself if they were defeated. For what we are now considering in relation to the argument of the majority is not concerned with the appropriateness or inappropriateness of verbal expression, but with the laws and the precise nature of correctness and the freedom from error in them. Very true, my friend. Yes, I agree. This has been very well expressed so far. Then let's look at the following question too. The brothers that were spoken of just now were presumably have a judge, yes indeed. Now, which of these two would be superior? A judge who destroyed the bad people among them and directed the better people to rule over themselves, or one who made the good people rule while allowing the inferior types to live on as their willing subjects? And there is perhaps a third judge we should mention in terms of excellence. If such a person exists, one who takes a single quarreling family in hand does not destroy anyone, but reconciles them for the future, and would be able to ensure that they are on friendly terms with one another by giving them laws. This sort of judge, who is also a lawgiver, would be far superior, and yet he would not be enacting laws for them with a view to war. The very opposite would be the case. That's true. What about the one who brings the city together in harmony? Does he order the life of the city with a view to external warfare rather than looking out for warfare that arises from time to time within the city, which is called faction? And this is something that no one ever wants in his own city. And when it arises, he wants to be eliminated as quickly as possible. He'll look out for faction, of course. What if faction were to come to a peaceful end because some people have been destroyed while others have been victorious? Would that be preferable to reconciliation of the faction and having to turn their thoughts then to external enemies in friendship and peace with one another? In the case of their own city, the reconciliation is what everyone would prefer. Doesn't the same apply to the lawgiver? Of course. And wouldn't every lawgiver institute all the regulations for the sake of what's best? How could he do otherwise? And what's best is neither warfare nor faction. It would be terrible if we needed these. What's best is peace and a friendly disposition towards one another at the same time. What's more, it seems the city itself, winning a victory over itself, is not to be counted among the best outcomes, but among those that are necessary. It's as if someone were to think that a sick body that had undergone medical purgation was then in the best possible condition and did not pay any attention to a body that did not need any treatment at all. In like manner, no one would ever become a true statesman by focusing exclusively upon external warfare as a means to ensuring the happiness of the city and of the individual. Nor would he ever be a lawgiver in the strict sense of the word, unless he instituted laws relating to warfare for the sake of peace, rather than instituting laws relating to peace for the sake of warfare. It appears somehow that this argument of yours, my friend, has been formulated correctly. And yet I wonder if the regulations here, and those in Sparta too, have not been enacted in all seriousness for the sake of warfare. Perhaps so, yet we should not do battle with them aggressively, but question them gently about the issues, since we are most serious about all of this, and so are they. Following along with my argument, at any rate, let's introduce Tyrrheus, an Athenian by birth, who later became a citizen of Sparta. He of all men was particularly interested in these matters, and he said that, quote, I would make no mention of a man or take account of him, end quote, even if he were the wealthiest of all men, says he, even if he possessed good plenty. And here he lists almost all of them, unless he turned out to be consistently excellent in warfare. I presume that you have heard these poems too. Well, I am sure that our friend here has had these fill of them. I certainly have. Yes, indeed. And they have reached us too here, imported from Sparta. Come on then, let's question this poet together with some such manner as this. Quote, O Tyrrheus, you are surely the most divine of poets, for you seem to us to be wise and good indeed, because you have sung the praises of those who excel in war, and you have excelled in doing so. Now I myself, and this man, and Clinias of Knossos, are already in full agreement with you on this matter, or so we think, but we would like to know for certain whether or not we are both talking about the same people. So tell us, do you think for certain, as we do, that there are two kinds of warfare, or what do you think? In response to this, I believe, even a far lesser man than Tyrrheus would state the truth, that there are two, one of which all of us call faction, which is the most bitter of all kinds of warfare, as we ourselves said just now, and we shall all propose, I believe, that the other kind of warfare is what we engage in when quarreling with other people externally, and this is much milder than internal faction. Of course. Come on then, which warfare were you praising, and which men do you praise so highly or criticize? It seems it was the men involved in external warfare, for you say in your poems that you simply can't stand the sort of men who shrink at the sight of blood-drenched slaughter and won't grapple with their enemies at close quarters. And after all of this, shouldn't we also say that, quote, it seems, Tyrrheus, that you lavish most praise on those who achieve fame and external warfare against foreigners, end quote. I presume he would agree with this and accept the point, of course. But although these men are good, we maintain that those who excel conspicuously in the greatest warfare are better by far. And we have a poet as witness to this too, Theogonus, a citizen of Megara in Sicily, who says, quote, in a bitter contest, a faithful man is worth his weight in gold, Cyrenius. We maintain that this man turns out to be altogether better than the other man in more bitter warfare. He is better to much the same extent as justice, sound-mindedness, and wisdom combined with courage are better with courage just by itself. For faith and sound-mindedness in the midst of faction would never arise in the absence of overall excellence. But the external warfare that Tyrrheus speaks of, there are vast numbers of mercenaries ready and willing to stand their ground and die fighting, almost all of whom turn out to be reckless, unjust, arrogant, and devoid of intelligence, with some few exceptions. Well, where will this present argument of ours finally lead? And what precise point is it trying to make by saying all of this? Obviously, it is this, the God-inspired lawgiver of this country, and to any lawgiver who confers even a little benefit, always institutes laws while looking above all to nothing else, except the very greatest excellence. This, according to Theogonus, is faithfulness in the midst of danger, which may be called perfect justice. But what Theoreus, for his part, has praised most, although it is notable and has been appropriately glorified by the poet, should nevertheless, properly speaking, be placed forth in terms of its status and respects it commands. My friend, we are relegating our own lawgiver to the lowest rank. No, my friend, we are not doing it to him. We are relegating ourselves whenever we say that Lycurgus and Minos instituted all the regulations, here in Sparta mainly with a view to warfare. How should we have spoken of this? In a way that is true and just. I believe, since we are conversing on behalf of divine personages, we should not say that we instituted laws with a view to a portion of excellence, and most common position, and the most commonplace portion at that, but with a view to excellence and its entirety. We should say that he sought to institute the laws kind by kind, but not by the kinds proposed by those who institute laws nowadays. For at present, each seeks to propose whatever kinds he needs. Countless other cases like these. But we maintain that the search for laws, when properly conducted, proceed just as we have now begun. And I thoroughly admire your attempt to explain the laws for beginning with excellence and saying that the lawgiver instituted the laws for the sake of this is correct. But when you went on to maintain that he institutes laws by referring everything to a mere portion of excellence, and the smallest portion at that, I thought you were clearly mistaken. That's why the latter of our discussion was needed. Well then, what sort of distinction would I have liked to hear you make as you spoke? Would you like to tell me? Would you like me to tell you? Yes, certainly. Okay. You should have said, quote, stranger, it is not for nothing that the laws of Crete are held in exceptionally high regard among all Greeks. They are all correct laws that bring about happiness in those who use them, for they provide everything that is good. Now goods are of two kinds, human and divine, and the human goods depend upon the divine. And if a city receives the greater of it, also requires the lesser. But if it receives not the greater, it is deprived of both. Of the lesser goods, health is the leader. Beauty comes second. Third comes strength in running and in other activities of the body. Fourth comes wealth, not blind but keen-sighted, provided it follows wisdom. Now, the first of the divine goods and their leaders is wisdom. Second is a sound minded disposition of the soul, imbued with reason. And third, from the combination of these two with courage comes justice, while courage itself is fourth. All these have a priority, natural priority, over the human goods. And that indeed is how the lawgiver must rank them. After all this, the citizens must be told that the other civic regulations have these goods in view. The human look to the divine, and the divine all look together to their leader, reason. In their connections, through marriage and afterwards, in the birth of their children and their nurture, be they male or female, when they are young or when they are older, and into old age, it is necessary to care for them by bestowing honor or dishonor in the right way. And in all their interactions, in their pleasures, pains, desires, and intense passions, they should be watched and supervised. And censure or praise should be bestowed in the right way through the laws themselves, in anger too and in fear, and amidst any tribulations that arise in their souls because of bad fortune, and the escape from such tribulations in good fortune, and amidst the effects that disease, war, poverty, and their opposites have upon people when they occur. Under all such circumstances, what's good and what's bad about the situation should be defined and thought in each case. Besides this, it is necessary for the lawgiver to watch over the acquisition and disposition of property by citizens, regardless of how they do it, and to oversee their joint ventures in furtherance of this, and the dissolution of these, be they voluntary or involuntary, nothing the way in which they behave towards one another in each of these ventures, and which are just and which are not. He should assign honors to those who are obedient to the laws and impose legally prescribed penalties upon those who disobey them. When he reaches the end of the entire constitution, he should look at the manner in which the dead should be buried in each case, and what honors should be assigned to them. Having surveyed this, the one who instituted the laws will over all these appoint guardians, some who proceed through wisdom, some who work through opinion, so that the reason may bind them together and declare that they are following sound-mindedness and justice rather than wealth and ambition. So, my friends, that's how I at least wanted to still wish even now to hear you describe how all these are present in the laws that are said to come from Zeus, or in the laws of the Pythian Apollo, which Minos and Lycurgus instituted. And I also want you to explain how the order they have acquired is evident to some when experienced in the laws, either technically or practically, while it is not at all apparent to the rest of us. Okay, so section 7. Well, my friend, what should we say next is what I'm going to read next time. Okay, take care, guys. Bye-bye.